Many live in physical freedom but are inwardly enslaved. What if the greatest prison you will ever know has no bars, no locks, and no walls? What if it lives within you? Take a deep breath. Now ask yourself, are you truly free? Or have you been conditioned to call your cage a kingdom? In a world that celebrates external liberties, freedom of speech, movement, and choice, there exists a silent epidemic, a soul-level captivity that escapes detection. People smile, they succeed, they achieve. But deep within, they ache. The ache is subtle, but it's persistent. It's that faint, gnawing discomfort that whispers, "This is not who I really am." Freedom, in its highest form, is not about geography, politics, or permissions. It is about alignment. It is about living in harmony with the deepest truth of who you are. And yet, most people never get there. Why? Because we are trained from an early age to silence our inner voice, to adapt, to perform, to belong, to win. Approval. Over time, our soul's compass grows quiet, buried beneath expectations, labels, and fears. We begin to mistake the noise of the world for the guidance of truth. We trade authenticity for acceptance. We forget that we were born not just to exist, but to live fully, consciously, and freely. Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, "To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment." And that is the heart of our journey here. This isn't just philosophy, it's survival of the soul. Throughout this video, we're going to unravel the nature of true freedom, not the kind granted by governments, but the one reclaimed by the courageous. We'll walk the path Emerson paved, where individualism, spirituality, and self-trust converge to awaken a life aligned with the soul. We'll explore why inner liberation is not only possible but necessary. If you've ever felt out of place, if you've ever looked in the mirror and sensed a stranger looking back, if you've ever wondered whether life could be more than routines and roles, this message is for you. This isn't just about changing your thoughts. It's about reclaiming your essence. Before we begin, I invite you to do something powerful. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss a step on this path back to yourself. And if something in these opening words stirred your heart, drop this in the comments right now. I choose to live in alignment with my soul. Let the universe hear your declaration. Let it begin today. Because when the soul is free, every part of life transforms. What does it actually mean to live aligned with the soul? You'll learn how to recognize this sacred alignment in your daily life and how it connects with your intuition, truth, and freedom. Stay with me. This is where your inner liberation truly begins. There is a quiet revolution that begins the moment you realize the life you were taught to chase is not the life you truly desire. Living aligned with the soul is not some mystical, abstract ideal. It is the most practical and necessary transformation a human being can undergo. It is the art of returning to oneself, a realignment, a shedding of the false self constructed by societal demands and inherited expectations. But what does it actually mean? It means that your decisions no longer come from fear, but from clarity. That your steps are guided not by trends or validation, but by a deeper internal compass, one that Emerson described as the infinitude of the private man. It is choosing every day to live with radical authenticity. To live aligned with the soul means listening to the quiet voice inside you that often gets drowned out by the noise of the world. That voice is your intuition. It is the whisper that tells you when something feels right, even when logic disagrees. It is the nudge to say no when you are expected to say yes. It is the fire in your belly that ignites when you touch your truth. Emerson taught that each person carries within them a unique destiny, a personal expression of the divine. He believed that following your inner law was not selfish, it was sacred. The only person you are destined to become, he wrote, is the person you decide to be. And yet, most people have never been taught to hear that voice. From childhood, we are trained to conform, to meet standards, to perform. We are praised for compliance and punished for intuition. So we learn to betray ourselves. We learn to silence the call of the soul for the comfort of approval. But at what cost? The cost is profound. Anxiety, emptiness, restlessness. You begin to feel like a visitor in your own life. You smile, but the joy feels hollow. You succeed, but it doesn't satisfy. You become a stranger to your own spirit. Living in misalignment becomes your silent prison. But it doesn't have to stay that way. Living aligned with the soul means waking up, not just in the morning, but from the slumber of unconscious living. It means pausing before you act. Asking, not, what do they expect of me, but what do I expect of myself? It means trusting that your life has meaning, not because of what you produce, but because of who you are. This alignment shows up in every area of life. It's in the work you choose, the people you love, the values you uphold. It's in how you treat your body, how you speak your truth, how you honor your energy. It's about coherence, the state where your thoughts, words, and actions are all in harmony with your inner truth. And make no mistake, living this way takes courage. Because once you begin, you will face resistance from others and from parts of yourself that are afraid to change. But with every step you take toward authenticity, you reclaim a piece of your soul. You become whole again. This is not about perfection. It's about presence. It's about realness. It's about choosing, moment by moment, to come home to yourself. Now ask yourself honestly, are you living in alignment with your soul or with someone else's blueprint? Because once you taste the freedom of authenticity, there's no turning back. How do you begin this journey? It all starts with one powerful act, turning inward. In the next part, you'll discover why self-knowledge is the gateway to soul alignment, and how Emerson's teachings can guide you toward that inner truth you've been craving your whole life. Stay with me. The road ahead will bring you closer to the real you. There is a moment in every meaningful life when the outer world goes silent and the inner world begins to speak. That moment may come through crisis, heartbreak, burnout, or a subtle dissatisfaction that refuses to go away. Whatever the catalyst, the message is the same. It's time to remember who you are. Ralph Waldo Emerson believed that all truth begins within. He championed the practice of introspection, not as an escape from the world, but as the only reliable path to becoming fully alive within it. He understood that until a person knows themselves deeply, intimately, fearlessly, they are simply performing life, not truly living it. So why do so many resist the journey inward? Because self-knowledge requires stillness, and stillness demands courage. In the silence, we are confronted not just with our dreams, but with our shadows, our fears, our conditioning. We come face to face with how much of our life has been lived for others, not for ourselves. But the reward of this brave inward turn is liberation, because you cannot live in alignment with your soul if you do not first know what your soul longs for. Think of the soul as a compass, always pointing true north, but ignored long enough, its voice becomes faint. That's where self-knowledge comes in. It is the tuning process. It sharpens the signal. It allows the true self to emerge from beneath the noise of social programming, family expectation, and cultural pressure. The tools of this journey are ancient: solitude, reflection, journaling, meditation, honest conversations with oneself. Emerson wrote, "Nothing can bring you peace but yourself." He wasn't being poetic, he was being precise. Your peace is not hidden in someone else's opinion or in your next achievement. It is rooted in the unshakable clarity of who you are. But clarity doesn't arrive all at once. It's uncovered in layers, like an archaeologist revealing the bones of something sacred buried beneath the rubble of years. You start small. What do I believe? What brings me alive? What drains me? When do I feel most like myself? These questions, asked consistently, open doors to deeper truths. And here's the secret. The answers are already inside you. You are not empty, waiting to be filled. You are full, waiting to be seen. Self-knowledge is not just about knowing your strengths or labeling your personality type. It's about recognizing the divine architecture within you, the unique design that no one else carries. Emerson saw the individual not as separate from the divine, but as its purest expression. He believed that every soul was a self-contained universe, and to know it was to touch the infinite. The journey inward is sacred. It is also radical, because once you begin to truly know yourself, you can no longer lie to yourself. You can no longer pretend. You can no longer make peace with a life that betrays your spirit. This is why so few take the path, but those who do never regret it. Because once you reclaim your inner truth, no one can take it from you. So today, let this be the beginning of that reclamation. Sit with yourself. Ask the questions that matter. Dare to listen. Dare to tell yourself the truth. Because the truth is not something you find, it's something you remember. If the truth lives within, then how do we hear it? What is the voice that speaks from beyond thought and beyond fear? You'll soon discover how the divine does not speak from the skies, but from within your own soul through intuition, stillness, and inner knowing. Stay tuned. The voice of God may be quieter than you expect, but it speaks louder than the world if you know how to listen. In a culture obsessed with noise, notifications, headlines, opinions, there is a voice most have forgotten how to hear. It doesn't shout. It doesn't argue. It doesn't demand attention. But it is always there. This is the voice Emerson revered, the sacred whisper within. He called it the aboriginal self, the innermost essence that is divine in nature, not acquired from books or doctrine, but born with us, eternal and unchanging. Contrary to institutional belief systems that place God outside of us, on a mountaintop, in a pulpit, in a distant heaven, Emerson taught that the divine resides within, not as metaphor, but as literal truth. He wrote, "We lie in the lap of immense intelligence, which makes us receivers of its truth and organs of its activity." In other words, we are not separate from God. We are the instruments through which the divine expresses itself. To hear this voice, one must become still. That is the first and greatest challenge. In a society that rewards productivity and performance, stillness can feel like laziness, even danger. But in truth, it is the gateway to everything you've ever longed to know. This inner voice does not need translation. It speaks through feelings, intuitions, sudden clarity, and deep peace. It is the quiet confidence that something is right, even when the world says it isn't. It is the deep resistance you feel when you are about to compromise your truth. It is the warmth in your chest when you are finally on the right path. It does not flatter the ego, it nourishes the soul. But how do we recognize it? Start by distinguishing it from the voice of fear. Fear is reactive, frantic, full of urgency. It speaks in absolutes. You must, you should, what if? The divine voice, by contrast, is calm. It waits. It offers, never imposes. It often arrives, not through logic, but resonance. A feeling that goes deeper than reason. A knowing. And this voice is never absent. It is only drowned out. Imagine standing in the middle of a busy street, trying to hear a whisper. That is what most of us are doing in our everyday lives. To hear the divine, you must step away from the crowd, internally and externally. Make time for silence. Disconnect to reconnect. Begin your mornings not with screens, but with breath. Ask your heart a question and then wait. Not for the mind, to answer, but for the body to respond. The body knows, the soul knows. The voice of God speaks through your entire being. This isn't religion, this is relationship. A relationship with the deepest part of yourself, which is inseparable from the source. Emerson understood that the church of the soul is always open, that no priest, no book, no ritual could replace the authority of personal revelation, and that those who trust this inner authority become free, not because they rebel, but because they no longer need to obey anything false. Think about that. The more you tune into this divine inner guidance, the less approval you seek, the less you fear mistakes, the more you become your own source of truth. You start living not to please, but to express. Not to impress, but to align. Not to survive, but to awaken. And something extraordinary happens when you live this way. Life begins to respond. Doors open, synchronicities increase. You feel accompanied, guided, supported. You stop feeling like you are fighting life, and start feeling like you are dancing with it. Not everything becomes easy, but everything becomes meaningful. Now let me ask you, when was the last time you were truly quiet enough to hear the divine speak? Because the truth is, the universe is not waiting to speak to you. It already is. The question is, will you listen? If the soul speaks with clarity, why do so many ignore it? In the next part, we'll expose one of the greatest threats to inner freedom, the invisible chains of conformity. You'll see how modern life, especially social media, subtly conditions you to abandon your soul in exchange for approval, and how to reclaim your truth in a world that demands sameness. Stay with me. What comes next may change how you see society and yourself forever. There is a danger more subtle than oppression, more pervasive than censorship, and more destructive than judgment. It is the quiet death of the self that occurs when you trade your soul's truth for the comfort of belonging. This danger has a name: conformity. Ralph Waldo Emerson warned against it with fierce conviction. In his essay, Self-Reliance, he declared, "Whoso would be a man must be a nonconformist." He understood that the greatest threat to individuality was not external persecution, it was internal surrender. The moment we betray ourselves to fit in, we place ourselves in invisible shackles. Conformity is seductive. It wears the mask of acceptance. It promises safety, admiration, inclusion. And at first it feels good. You are liked. You are affirmed. You belong. But slowly your inner voice begins to fade. You hesitate before speaking your truth. You laugh when you don't find something funny. You agree with things you don't believe in. You filter your soul to become more palatable. And in doing so, you abandon your essence. This is not a conscious decision most of the time. It's gradual. It's learned. And today, it's amplified like never before. Think about social media. Platforms built to connect have become arenas for performance. Every post, every picture, every word is curated for approval. We live under an unspoken pressure to appear a certain way, think a certain way, live a certain way. Likes and comments have become the new currency of worth. And so we craft digital personas, not based on truth but on trends. We trade presence for popularity, authenticity for applause. We become what the world wants, not who we truly are. But here's the paradox. The more you conform, the more you disconnect. You become known, but not seen. Celebrated, but not understood. Surrounded, but deeply alone. Emerson's warning echoes louder today than ever. A foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds. What he meant was simple: living in automatic agreement with others, or even with your past self, without introspection or evolution, is a betrayal of the living spirit within. To be free, you must risk being misunderstood. To be whole, you must risk being different. This is the cost of It robs you of innovation, of courage, of purpose. Every great mind, every soul-driven revolution began with someone who said, "No, this is not my truth," and dared to live from within, even if it meant standing alone. Ask yourself now, where in your life have you conformed? Where have you silenced your truth to be accepted? Where have you worn a mask so well you've forgotten the face underneath? You do not owe the world your compliance. You owe your soul your allegiance. Freedom is not rebellion for rebellion's sake. It is not chaos or defiance. It is clarity. It is knowing who you are and living in alignment with that knowing, regardless of the consequences. And the beauty is, the moment you stop conforming, something remarkable happens. Your energy returns. Your creativity awakens. Your voice grows strong. You begin to attract people and opportunities that resonate with the real you, not the image you projected, but the truth you embody. That is the life worth living. A life aligned not with culture, but with conscience. It's one thing to recognize the need for authenticity. It's another to live it out, especially when the world pushes back. In the next part, we'll confront the challenge of living your truth in a world that demands compromise, and how true courage is not the absence of fear, but the devotion to one's soul above all else. Stay with me. What comes next will awaken the fire within you. To live authentically is to walk through fire. Not a literal fire, but a symbolic one. A fire made of judgment, rejection, misunderstanding, and fear. Every person who chooses to honor their soul must walk through it. And yet, on the other side, there is something no conformity can ever offer: freedom. Authenticity, though beautiful in principle, is terrifying in practice. Because when you strip away the roles, the expectations, the pleasing and the pretending, you stand exposed. And in that nakedness, you must face the most vulnerable question of all. Will I still be loved if I am truly myself? This question haunts countless souls. It keeps people silent in meetings, passive in relationships, invisible in their own lives. We all long to be seen, but we fear that once we are, we will no longer be accepted. Ralph Waldo Emerson understood this inner war well. He wrote, "To be great is to be misunderstood." In a world obsessed with fitting in, authenticity becomes a revolutionary act. It is the decision to prioritize truth over approval and meaning over comfort. But let's be clear, being authentic doesn't mean being confrontational or careless or rude. It means being real. It means speaking from the heart, even when your voice shakes. It means choosing integrity over imitation. It means showing up as your whole self, not the edited version the world prefers. And yes, this will upset people. Not because you are wrong, but because you remind them of their own unexpressed truth. Your authenticity can feel like a threat to those still living in masks. But that is not your burden to carry. You are not responsible for others' discomfort with your light. In fact, your authenticity might be the exact permission someone else needs to be real too. But the courage to be authentic doesn't come from ego. It comes from devotion. Devotion to your own soul. Devotion to the quiet truth that lives inside of you. Devotion to living a life that feels honest, even if it's messy, even if it's hard. Because here's the truth. When you abandon yourself to please others, no one wins. You lose your peace. They receive a version of you that's not real, and the world is robbed of the gift of your uniqueness. And make no mistake, authenticity is a gift. It is medicine. It is what heals cultures built on performance. It is what reconnects relationships grown cold with politeness. It is what gives color to a life faded by routine. Authenticity is not an aesthetic. It is a practice, a muscle. And like any muscle, it grows stronger with use. Start small. Say what you actually mean. Express what you truly feel. Wear what makes you feel alive. Create what comes from your heart, not what trends dictate. Trust your yes. Honor your no. And most of all, stop apologizing for your presence. Because the more you practice being real, the less tolerance you'll have for being fake. And eventually, the world you live in will begin to reshape itself to match your truth. You'll attract different people. Opportunities will emerge from places you never expected. Your days will feel lighter, more aligned, not because life becomes perfect, but because you become whole. And the people who truly see you, who truly love you, will not ask you to be anything else. They will cherish your authenticity because it gives them permission to be themselves too. So the next time fear whispers, "What if they don't accept the real you?" Answer back, "Then they're not meant to." Coming next, what happens when you finally begin to trust yourself? You'll learn why self-confidence, as Emerson saw it, is not arrogance, but spiritual power. It's the bridge between your inner truth and the outer world. And it's what allows you to walk in alignment, no matter who doubts you. Stay here. This next part could change how you see yourself forever. There is a moment in every awakening when you must stop asking others for permission to speak, to choose, to believe, to become. That moment marks the beginning of true freedom, not because the world has changed, but because you have. Self-trust is the bridge between your inner truth and the outer world. Without it, everything collapses. With it, even uncertainty becomes sacred ground. Ralph Waldo Emerson made self-trust the cornerstone of his philosophy. He wrote, "Trust thyself. Every heart vibrates to that iron string." He wasn't advocating for arrogance or defiance. He was pointing to a deeper, more sacred strength. The strength that arises when you no longer abandon yourself in moments of doubt. But why is self-trust so rare? Because from an early age, we are trained to outsource our authority. We are told what is right, what is wrong, what is acceptable, what is desirable. We are taught to look outward for validation, to measure our worth by others' standards. And so we learn to second-guess ourselves, to fear our instincts, to doubt the voice inside us that once spoke so clearly. Self-trust doesn't mean you always have the answers. It means you believe you'll find them. It means you know how to return to yourself, even when the path is unclear. It is the quiet assurance that you are guided, not by fear, but by a deeper intelligence within. And that guidance is not theoretical, it is embodied. It shows up in the gut feeling that something is off, in the spark of inspiration you can't explain, in the quiet certainty that you were made for more. The more you trust these signals, the more accurate they become. Doubt fades, confidence grows, alignment deepens. Self-trust is also deeply spiritual. Because when you trust yourself, you are trusting the source that created you. You are affirming that your existence is not an accident, that your desires are not random, and that your intuition is not noise. It is divine direction. In a world that thrives on manipulation and marketing, self-trust is rebellion. It allows you to step out of the cycles of comparison, competition, and consumption. You stop needing to be better than others. You only need to be you, fully and without compromise. And this changes everything. Your relationships become more authentic. You stop tolerating disrespect because you no longer believe you need to earn love. Your work becomes more purposeful because you follow your passion rather than pressure. Your time becomes sacred because you no longer fill your calendar to prove your value. But self-trust must be nurtured. It grows through action, through choices made not out of fear, but out of truth. Every time you say yes to what feels right, even if no one else understands, you are strengthening your inner foundation. And yes, you will stumble. You will make mistakes. That's part of it. But even your mistakes become teachers when you trust yourself. Because instead of collapsing into self-blame, you learn, you grow, you adjust, you keep going. That is resilience. That is maturity. That is spiritual sovereignty. So ask yourself now, when was the last time you truly trusted yourself? not your image, not your intellect, but your deep inner knowing. Because once you cross the bridge of self-trust, you step into a world where no external force can define your worth. You walk not by sight, but by soul. You'll see how this deep trust in your inner truth leads to something even greater. A life of true freedom. Not freedom from challenge, but freedom in the face of it. You'll learn how inner alignment makes you unshakable, even when the outer world is uncertain. Stay close. What's coming will anchor you in a truth that no storm can shake. Real freedom is not loud. It is not rebellious. It does not always wear a flag or raise a fist. Real freedom is quiet. It lives deep within, where no eye can see, but where everything begins. It is the feeling of being at peace with yourself, no matter who disagrees. It is the strength to walk your own path, even when the crowd moves in another direction. It is the knowledge that you are living in harmony with your truth, and that no one can take that away from you. This is the kind of freedom Emerson pointed to. Not the freedom granted by external systems, but the freedom that emerges when a person aligns fully with their own soul. In his words, the soul becomes. It evolves, unfolds, and reveals itself when we live not by convention, but by conscience. When our decisions, actions, and relationships flow from the deepest part of who we are, not from fear or obligation. But here's the paradox. We often think that freedom means doing whatever we want. No rules, no limits, no expectations. Yet that kind of freedom can quickly become chaos. True freedom is not the absence of boundaries. It is the presence of alignment. When you are aligned with your soul, your choices are guided by something wiser than impulse. You no longer chase fleeting desires but enduring truths. You stop needing more to feel whole, because you already are whole. And this changes how you experience the world. You begin to see through illusions. The illusion that success equals happiness, that popularity equals love, that productivity equals value. You begin to live with clarity, with purpose, with quiet confidence. This is why the soul-aligned person can endure hardship without losing peace. Why they can live with less, yet feel more abundant. Why they can walk away from what is popular and stand in what is true. They are free, not because life is easy, but because they are no longer at war with themselves. And nature understands this perfectly. A tree does not ask permission to grow. A river does not need approval to flow. They live by design, by truth, by essence. So must we. But living this way is not always comfortable, because as you grow in inner freedom, the world may not understand you. You may be called selfish, strange, rebellious. And yet, you are not rejecting the world. You are simply refusing to betray yourself for it. That is strength. That is grace. That is liberation. And something beautiful happens when you reach this level of truth. You begin to inspire others. Not by preaching, but by being. Your presence becomes an invitation. Your life becomes a mirror. Others feel safer to be themselves around you because you have made peace with yourself. This is not just about you, it's about the world you help create by living free. So the question is, are you living from your soul's truth or from someone else's script? Because when you stop performing, stop conforming, and start listening, really listening, to what your soul already knows, everything changes. You begin to feel alive in ways you never imagined. You wake up grateful, not just because things are good, but because you are no longer hiding, no longer shrinking, no longer seeking what was always inside you. That is the fruit of inner truth. Peace, power, presence, and the unshakable knowledge that your life is yours, not in theory but in essence. What happens when your entire life begins to reflect your inner alignment? When your relationships, decisions, and routines shift to honor your truth? You'll see how soul alignment doesn't just change you, it transforms everything around you. You're about to discover how living from within can ripple into every part of your reality. Don't miss it. Imagine waking up each morning and knowing that your life, your choices, your relationships, your work is a direct expression of your soul. No masks, no compromises, just clarity. This is not a fantasy. It is what happens when a person begins to live from the inside out, when soul alignment is no longer an idea, but a lived reality. And when that shift occurs, everything changes. Your relationships begin to reflect your growth. No longer are you drawn to people who drain you, diminish you, or demand that you shrink. Instead, you begin attracting those who see you, hear you, and value your authenticity. These are connections built not on image, but on resonance, on a mutual recognition of truth. You find yourself having deeper conversations, saying what you actually mean, holding boundaries not out of defense, but out of love. You stop trying to fix others, and you stop needing to be fixed. You begin to understand that love is not about control or approval. It's about freedom. It's about being real, together, and that extends to every area of life. Your career begins to evolve. Perhaps you stay in your current role, but with renewed purpose and presence. Or perhaps you walk away from something that no longer feels aligned. Either way, your work begins to reflect your values. You are no longer working to impress, but to express, not just to earn, but to serve, to create, to contribute something meaningful from the core of who you are. Even your daily routines change. The way you eat, the way you move, the way you spend your time. It all begins to align with what nourishes your energy. You listen to your body, respect your limits, and create space for the practices that reconnect you with yourself. Because when you live from your soul, you no longer see life as something to conquer. You see it as something to co-create. You stop hustling for worth and begin living in rhythm with your own natural pace. Peace replaces pressure, presence replaces performance, and then the miracles begin. Not the dramatic kind, but the quiet, powerful shifts that happen when your inner world and outer life begin to reflect each other. Synchronicities, opportunities that feel divinely timed, a deeper sense of joy, not tied to circumstances, but flowing from within. Even your challenges take on a new meaning. You no longer see obstacles as punishments, but as invitations. You understand that every difficulty is a mirror, reflecting where you are still out of alignment. And you meet those moments not with self-judgment, but with curiosity, compassion, and courage. This is the essence of transformation. It is not just about changing how you think. It's about changing how you live, how you love, how you show up day after day. And it doesn't happen overnight. Soul alignment is not a destination. It's a way of being, a practice, a return. Every moment offers the choice to live true or live safe, to express or suppress, to awaken or to sleepwalk. But each time you choose truth, you reclaim more of yourself. And the beauty of it all? You don't have to wait for the world to change. You don't need anyone's permission. The power to transform is already within you. It has always been, because your soul already knows the way. You just have to stop, listen, and follow. Coming next, we're arriving at the heart of this journey. The final reflection will gather everything we've explored into a powerful closing message, a reminder that your soul has always known the path, and now you are ready to walk it. Prepare for a closing that reconnects you to your deepest truth and invites you to step fully into your own liberation. You won't want to miss this final message. It's more than an ending. It's your beginning. There is a truth that lives in the quiet spaces between thoughts. A truth so ancient, so intimate, it cannot be taught, only remembered. You were born knowing it. Before the noise, before the conditioning, before the layers of identity and performance, before they told you who to be, how to act, what to want. Deep within you, this knowing remained untouched. The whisper of your soul, the map of your essence, the compass that never stopped pointing home. You felt it in the stillness, in the ache, in the moments when life became too loud and something inside you said, "This isn't it." In those flashes of clarity where time stopped and you remembered, just for a moment, what it meant to be truly alive. That is the voice that brought you here. And now, at the end of this journey, you stand at the beginning of something far greater, a return to yourself. Because what you've discovered in these moments is not new knowledge. It's your original truth. You've simply been reminded of what your soul has always known, that freedom is not something to seek. It is something to embody. That peace is not given, it is remembered. That your path is not out there, it begins within. Emerson understood this better than most. His call to self-reliance was not a call to isolation, but to integration. He saw the human soul as a reflection of the divine, not separate from it. And he believed that the greatest act of courage was to live a life true to one's own nature, regardless of the noise, the fear, or the resistance. You now know what that looks like. It looks like honoring your intuition, even when logic can't justify it. It looks like choosing presence over performance. It looks like letting go of roles, rules, and routines that no longer reflect your truth. It looks like speaking up, setting boundaries, creating art, saying yes when your heart says yes, and no when your soul says no. It looks like standing in your own energy, fully, without apology. This is not easy work, it is sacred work. Because when you choose to live aligned with your soul, you don't just change your life, you change the lives of those around you. You give others permission to be real, to feel deeply, to trust themselves. You become a lighthouse, not by shining for others, but by refusing to dim your light. Your transformation is not self-indulgent, it is service. Every step you take toward your truth creates a ripple that moves through families, communities, generations. It's how the world heals, one aligned soul at a time. And perhaps now, you see why so many remain asleep. Because this path demands everything. Honesty, surrender, bravery. You must unlearn, deconstruct, and release. You must face the parts of yourself you were told to hide. You must love yourself in ways you were never taught. You must walk away from anything that demands you betray your spirit. But what you gain is immeasurable. You gain yourself. Not a version of you shaped by expectation, but the real you. The you that existed before the world taught you to shrink. And when you live as that person, you don't need anyone's approval. You don't chase love. You become love. You don't chase meaning. You embody meaning. You don't chase freedom. You are freedom. And now, the invitation is yours. You can keep walking the familiar path, the one of roles and rules, of image and imitation. Or you can choose the path of alignment, of soul, of truth. And if you choose the latter, if something in you says yes, then let this be your first step. Declare it. Write in the comments below, "I follow the path of my soul and I live in truth." Let this be your commitment, not to me, but to yourself. Let the words echo beyond the screen. Let them vibrate through every part of you that has been waiting to come alive. And while you're here, subscribe to this channel. If this journey touched something deep within you, I promise you, there's more. More truth, more reflection, more tools to support you in becoming everything you were always meant to be. And please, share in the comments where you're watching from. I want to know. This message isn't just personal, it's global. Souls, awakening across continents, cultures, and timelines. All remembering the same thing. We were never meant to live in fear. We were never meant to conform. We were born to be free. So if this video met you at the right time, watch the next one. Let this not be the end, but the beginning of your deep return. Your soul is ready. It always has been. Your path is waiting. And now, you are too.